Welcome back to Andersen Acres. Today we are going to be making cheesy surprise bread. This bread is a lot of fun and it does have a surprise in the center. So we're just going to make the dough first. The dough itself does not have any cheese in it. So we're going to start with 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter or margarine. Either works in this recipe. You're going to crack one egg into here. I'm going to try cracking it directly into here. Hey, no eggshells. Go me. I'm getting better at this cracking egg business. You want 3 tablespoons of sugar, but only 1 teaspoon of salt. The extra sugar is kind of necessary. It helps offset the seasoning that's going to be in the center of our bread. You're also going to want 1 cup of water. You could instead do half a cup of water and half a cup of milk if you want a slightly creamier dough. Either works. If you don't have any milk, just use water. Ignore the washing machine going in the background. Sorry about that. So we're going to add 3 cups of just regular flour. You can use whole wheat in this if you like, because the topping is in, the cheese is in the middle of this bread. You don't have to worry about the bread not rising properly because there's no cheese mixed throughout. So you absolutely can use whole wheat, a little bit of whole wheat or rye if you like. So you could do 1 cup of whole wheat flour and 2 cups of white. I'm just using white. Now we're also going to do 1 heaping teaspoon of yeast. Because I'm using the bread maker, I'm using a bread machine yeast. You could, of course, do this by hand, and then you would use a traditional yeast and dissolve it. So we're going to pop this in the bread maker and come back, and I'll show you how we form our cheesy surprise bread. But we have to wait until after the first rise. Like a lot of doughs, we need to let the first rise happen. Then we'll come back and actually form our loaf. All right, our dough is ready. Now we have to make our filling for our bread before we touch the dough. So in here, I have about a half a cup of shredded cheese. I'm just using a farmer's cheese. You can use a cheddar cheese, you can use a mozzarella, you can use any kind of cheese you like. Into that, I'm going to pour about 4 tablespoons of melted butter. It should still be quite warm because you do want it to kind of get your cheese melty. Okay, so give that a mix. Now you want to add some seasoning to it. You can add any seasoning you like. I am going to add some garlic powder, if I can open the garlic powder. I'm going to add some garlic powder. I'm going to add about half a teaspoon of garlic powder. In total, you want about 1 whole teaspoon of herbs. So mix and match your herbs till you get what you like. I'm going to add, that's probably half a teaspoon, quarter teaspoon of basil. Then I'm going to do about 1/8 of a teaspoon of oregano. You can get kind of creative. You can use any kind of herbs you like. And I'm going to do about 1/8 of a teaspoon of thyme is what that one was. So give that a mix. Okay, you want your cheese to be getting a little bit melty through that. No big deal. Set that aside for a minute. Grab a loaf pan. I'm using silicone, but you can use any type of loaf pan you like. Spray it or grease it, depending on how you like to grease your pans. Doesn't really matter. I'm not using very much because it's a silica pan, so they're pretty non-stick anyway. Now you're going to take your dough, divide it in half. Okay, take half. The slightly larger half should go on the bottom. If you divided them equally, it doesn't really matter. So give it a stretch. Okay, find the stickiest side of your dough, and that's the side you want up. So give it a stretch and lay it in your pan. Okay, now we've got it in our pan. Push it down into the pan so that it fills your cavities. Now you're going to want to take your fingers and kind of make almost a channel. Ignore the barking dog. They bark all the time sometimes. It really barked on that other video we did, but that was because a delivery guy came. So just kind of make a channel with your fingers. There we go. Now you're going to take your topping. You want to keep your topping away from the edges. Okay, so you want your topping to kind of be in that channel. We're just going to come and just pour our topping gently because we don't want to make a complete mess. And see, we have our butter sitting in there, our cheese sitting in there, our herbs sitting in there. See, nice and delicious. It's okay if it overflows a little. Don't worry about it. It's just bread dough. So now we're going to stretch our top. Give your top a pretty good stretch. Just kind of lay that on top. Kind of tuck it down around. Stretch and pull. Tuck it down. And now we're just going to set that aside to rise. It's going to take about 45 minutes to an hour. So we'll just set that aside to rise, and then we'll come back and bake it up. All right, so there is our cheesy surprise bread. It has risen. You can, if you like, top it with a poppy seed or a sesame seed. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put it right in the oven. We're not going to coat it with anything. So it's going to go into the oven for about half an hour, 25 to 30 minutes at 375 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll come back and see how it looks. All right, our cheesy surprise bread is finished. It has been cooling in the pan for about 20 minutes. You do need to let it cool for 20 minutes. It's actually really important that that happens because remember, you have melted cheese inside there. If you cut it immediately, you're just going to get cheese running everywhere, and that's not a good thing. So we're just going to give it a slice. See how it did? If you just slice the very end, you might not get as much cheese. So we're slicing in a little bit. Gonna give it a slice. See, yeah, see, I didn't slice deep enough to get the cheese. So we'll slice in here. You do want to slice fairly deep so that you, oh, there we go. See, we have this ribbon of yummy cheese in here. And I'm peeling it apart so you can see it, but it'll taste delicious. I didn't cut that very well. But it'll taste delicious. So when you pull it apart, you can see you've got your cheese in there. Your cheese is all the way through the bread as a nice layer of cheese in there. And this is a delicious bread to have. It's a really great little snack. And it's a lot of fun to make. Kids especially love this particular bread. So I hope you'll try cheese surprise bread at home. It's very easy to make, and it'll be a crowd pleaser. Hope to see you tomorrow.